The big thing is like we want the art to speak for itself. We want the process to speak for itself. Like we don't really want to do YouTube content in the traditional way that people do it. We really want ideas to be the leading force of what we do, not just like creating content that fits a certain system. Like we don't really care about views. Like we don't really care about all those metrics. Like what we care about is like one comment. Oh, okay, word, like I made this connection, or word, like this helped me with something, or that's really interesting. I never thought about it that way. Like, of course, there are people who do both, you know, they're able to do a little bit of everything, but like for us, we really just, you know, we really want to grow our community. We really want to grow our viewership, but the number one cornerstone to everything that we do is like letting the process speak, letting the idea speak, letting that line that cuts through and connects these different cultures and these different ways of thinking together. Like we want that to speak. We want that to speak for who we are as creators, and we want that to speak for our content. So that's the vibe. That's the vibe. That's the vibe. And our content, you know, may not be for everybody, and that's okay. You know, we want to make material and media and content that just resonates with you, and if it resonates with you, then thank you. Yeah, that's good, dope. And you can cut that, like, you know, I repeated some stuff, so you can cut that down even like half of that. You feel what I'm saying? Just the core of it. You know what I mean? The core of that, and clip that and have that out, and we can share that on Twitter and everything like that. So let's do a little bit of Arcadism talk. Is that cool if we do that?
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, so I'll just do the same, you know, just kind of, you know. You know, we've been talking a lot about Arcadism on our documentary series, on our newsletters, on our video series, and you know, we kind of have been hoping people can put two and two together and figure out what exactly it is, and, you know, read some of the stuff that we've written about it. And I think a lot of people are using the term more, that it's resonating with the community.
I've been very wrapped up into Arcadism here as of late with, you know, my roommates and everybody else that's around me. But when I had watched this documentary, I'm like, I don't know what type of state of mind like these gentlemen. And I don't know, like how many of you guys worked on this documentary? Was it just the two of you?
It's really exciting to see this term being used. And so I wanted to just kind of quickly go over a little bit of what it is and how it's evolving, right? So there's no like one word definition. It's kind of like postmodernism. It's kind of like, you know, any of these sort of, you know, philosophical terms that more so get at a vibe, for lack of a better word. They get at a motif. They get at a style. You know, you can't really define a style. You know what I mean? A style is something that you live. It's something that you experience. It's something that grows with you as a person. And so Arcadism is definitely in alignment with styles. The short version of it is that it is a media theory, right? So it focuses on the actual method of crossover.
The hip-hop influence, the way they dressed, you know, the cultural, you know, backgrounds that the characters had. I'm like, I get it. Like, I understand what Ram and the gang are trying to say to me here. And I think it's something that really speaks really deep within people.
This very basic element of two IPs, two concepts, two brands that typically wouldn't go together, when they come together and make a new thing, like X-Men versus Street Fighter, for example, that's an example of Arcadism, right? Space Jam is an example of Arcadism in the sense that, like, you know, Jordan combines with Looney Tunes. You know, it seems like it doesn't make any sense at all, but because of the way, you know, corporations work and capitalism works and how brands evolve, specifically in the United States, it makes sense that these two brands would go together for the sake of commerce, for the sake of marketing. But it grows beyond its life as a marketing ploy, right? It's not just, oh, that's just something they do for marketing. Like, we know that in the back of our head, but once they fuse together, they become something that seems really valuable and really new and really special. Marvel versus Capcom is a great example of that. It seems in some ways that the combination doesn't quite make sense, but when it did come together, it created a whole life of its own. So So it's about this process of creating new universes, new ways of thinking, new expectations through the process of combination. And that goes back to this theory of, hip hop and how hip hop came about. There was music before hip hop, but when hip hop kind of came about in the late 70s, it was repurposing, remixing, and combining these different elements that people wouldn't think go together. Basically, it like took these bare elements and allowed people to rap over these beats, taking old records and flipping them and looping them and making something new. And the art of sampling, that's all Arcadism. So when we talk about hip hop and we talk about fighting games and we talk about arcade culture and we talk about pop culture, it falls line in line with hip hop. Modern culture is very, very like related and close to this concept of hip hop culture. You can't really have modern culture without hip hop culture. Hip hop culture is like, the original counterculture. You know what I mean? It's the original overriding of culture, that graffiti aesthetic, that graffiti mentality, that turntable DJ mentality, that flipping and scratching records and making something new. It's that whole, that hunger to be heard through the abstraction. You know what I'm saying? It's that Keith Haring, it's that Basquiat, it's that Warhol, you know what I mean? It's that Virgil, you know what I mean? It's that mentality. So the whole concept is like, okay, we love fighting games, but are these things related to hip hop? Of course. Look at Third Strike.
I swear, you are the most undisciplined fighter I've ever known.
Shut your damn mouth.
And the only one I wasn't able to kill.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mugen is the name, pal. You got that?
Look at Japanese culture and its relationship to hip hop and its love for hip hop and its admiration for hip hop. Samurai Champloo. Look at, the creator of Samurai Champloo's love for jazz and cowboy bebop. Those pieces of art live on such a high level within the atmosphere of pop culture. When you think about Afro Samurai and RZA and Wu-Tang, and then Wu-Tang's fighting game, and then Wu-Tang's comic book, the OG Arcadis. You know what I'm saying? So there's many levels to it. One is the sake of combination. One is that it's immediate theory. Two is that it's this exploration of its relationship to countercultures like hip hop, but it's not the only one, right? And then the other element is that Arcadism also has a deep connection to architecture. And when we think about architecture, we're thinking about, the Arc, right? Architecture, Noah's Ark, right? Arcades, archery, right? These bows, these sort of structures that are the window that you walk through or the door that you walk through. So it's about liminal spaces as well. The arcade, the original arcades that we know about in Paris, they were not video game spaces. They were basically outdoor malls, for lack of a better term. They were like exterior shopping spaces. So the relationship to arcades and its etymology is very much related to this utopia that can be found in contemporary shopping, or this sort of superficial or artificial utopia through contemporary shopping. And then that's connected to Arcadia, right? And ancient Greece utopia, right? So there's levels to the relationship between utopia, to architecture, to space, to commerce, to buildings, to culture, to civilization, to relationship building, to combination. It's very hard to explain very succinctly, but you can kind of understand that Arcadism is all about the continuous overlap and the continuous hunger to learn about the genesis of something. And for us, that genesis is going to be, centered around fighting games and arcades. For the 90s kids and the 80s kids, that was really the first place that we interacted with technology in the first way. So in a way, that was our genesis with technology.
No! Play it again! Get that money, slime money! I don't like that, but work back. I thought you gotta do it. It's the only ball
That was
away.
our first experience really connecting with tech in a public space around people with discourse